So he's saying the call was about damage control, not about giving Elovich special treatment.
Exactly. And he also insists that he never approved canceling the structural separation in the first place, which directly contradicts what Filber said in his testimony.
Wow, so that's a pretty big discrepancy.
It is, and it goes right to the heart of the process.
Throughout all of this, you really get the sense that Netanyahu feels like he's the victim of a political vendetta.
Yeah, he makes that very clear.
He said that he's been sitting here for 10 years on bribery because of idiotic spokesperson statements. Or, as he put it in Hebrew, Ani yoshev po 10 shanim al shochad bigla hodat dovrot idiotuyot.
Ouch.
Yeah, and he also talked about feeling persecuted, like the investigators had already decided he was guilty and were just building a case to fit their narrative.
He said they marked a target and created a thesis not supported by the facts.
Or Simona Matara Vyatsru Teza Shilonit Meket Diofdad.
And he brought up all these alleged exploding affairs and what he called a Niagara of briefings from the police and prosecution, all aimed at turning public opinion against.
So he's painting a picture of a system that's rigged.
That's his defense in a nutshell.
And then there are all these little moments in the courtroom that really add to the drama.
Oh yeah, this trial has been anything but dull.
Like, for instance, Netanyahu showing up 10 minutes late to one of the hearings.
That raised some eyebrows.
Especially because on that same day, he made the decision to fire the head of the Shin Bet.
Wow, talk about burying the lid.
Right, and yet he doesn't say a word about it in court.
Very strange.
Then there's his reaction to Filber's testimony.
Oh yeah, he was furious.
Apparently, he was outraged that he hadn't been given access to Filber's full testimony, which included details about businessman Haim Sabin allegedly pressuring Filber on the structural separation issue.
And he called it a sharuria, a scandal.
Yeah, he argued that this missing piece of information actually disproves the idea that he was favoring Elovich.
So he's saying it backs up his side of the story.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though, because it shows how much weight he places on Filber's testimony.
Yeah, you can really see how frustrated he is with the whole process.
Absolutely.
And then at one point, he even kind of like snaps at the judges during his testimony.
Oh, yeah, that was intense.
He just blurts out, "I was accused of bribery."
Yeah.
And Judge Feldman Friedman has to tell him to stop repeating himself.
It's like the tension in the courtroom just reached a boiling point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it wasn't just the legal teams involved. You also had that incident with the Netanyahu supporter in the viewing hall.
Oh, yeah, that was...
The guy just starts shouting, "Judges are Nazis."
Or Hashoftim Nazim.
And obviously security had to remove him.
Of course.
And while Netanyahu did distance himself from those comments, it just goes to show how polarized and emotionally charged this whole thing has become.
Yeah, it's a reminder that this trial isn't just about legal arguments, it's tapping into some very deep societal divisions.
And then you have that heartbreaking moment with Einav Zangoker, the mother of one of the hostages.
Oh, that was so powerful.
She actually goes right up to Netanyahu in the courtroom and hands him a letter, pleading for him to do more to bring her son home.
Her son, Matan, has a genetic muscle disease, and she's terrified that the conditions of his captivity are going to make it worse.
Yeah. She made it very clear that she feels like the current selective deal is basically a death sentence for her son.
And she also accused Netanyahu of refusing to meet with her and prioritizing political considerations over the lives of the hostages.
That was a really raw and emotional moment.
It was, and it brought the hostage crisis right into the heart of the trial.
And speaking of dramatic moments, we can't forget about Amit Haddad Netanyahu's lead defense attorney abruptly leaving the courtroom.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely strange.
It happened during a break on the same day as those Qatar Gate arrests, and he just never came back.
Another lawyer from his team had to take over the question.
Yeah, and his team just said that he had an urgent, unavoidable matter to attend to.
So naturally, everyone starts speculating.
Right, like what could be so important that you would just walk out of your client's trial like that?
Especially on such a high-stakes day.
Yeah. It definitely added to the intrigue.
It did.
And then you've got Judge Friedman Feldman letting Haddad know that they're running out of time.
Yeah, she told him that they only had 6 more sessions scheduled for Netanyahu's main testimony.
Which seems like not nearly enough considering everything they've got to cover.
Exactly. And Haddad even hinted that they might need more time, even though they've already cut a lot of their material.
But the court seems determined to stick to their schedule.
Yeah, they're trying to keep things moving.
And to top it all off, the judges even gave the media specific instructions about interacting with Netanyahu.
Oh yeah, during one of the sessions, they told the journalists in the courtroom that they weren't allowed to ask Netanyahu any questions on the days he was testifying.
So they're really trying to control the narrative.
It seems that way.
Now, as for the defense's overall strategy, their initial plan was to wrap up the testimony phase for Case 4000 by the end of March or early April.
Which, looking back, seems incredibly optimistic.
Yeah. I mean, a lot has happened since then.
Eli Zipori even wrote about it on his blog, saying that with Qatargate and the defense's requests for more time, That timeline is clearly out the window.
Right. And Haddad himself admitted that they'd had to cut down on their material to meet the court's deadlines.
But even with all the cuts, it still doesn't seem like enough time.
We also had those 2 instances where hearings had to be canceled.
Right. The first one was because Netanyahu needed to be at the Knesset for some crucial votes on judicial reform and a debate that the opposition had initiated.
Yeah. And the second cancellation was because of a medical issue in one of the judge's family.
So you can see how all these external factors can really impact the trial's progress.
And then there's the question of how long all of this is going to take.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a potentially massive amount of time here.
The defense's main questioning of Netanyahu was supposed to last about 20 hearing days.
Which is roughly a month and a half.
But then after that, you've got the prosecution's cross-examination, which could be twice as long.
And then you've got the lawyers for the other defendants who also get to question Netanyahu.
So this could drag on for quite a while.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking months, if not longer.
And of course, throughout all of this, you've got the public reacting in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, it's been impossible.
You've got protesters gathering outside the courthouse, some calling for Netanyahu to be declared incapacitated.
And then you've got those really eye-catching protest displays.
Like the one that showed Netanyahu and his aides as puppets being controlled by the Emir of Qatar.
Yeah, that one was called Qatargate.
And then there was another one called the Emir's Puppet Theater.
Those were definitely attention.
Yeah, it's clear that this trial is capturing the public's imagination and sparking a lot of strong opinions.
It's a huge story.
So the learners, you can see this is a very complicated situation with a lot of moving parts.
It is.
We've got allegations of prosecutorial misconduct defenses against bribery charges centered around media coverage, and then this whole Qatargate scandal that's come out of left field.
And we can't forget about the hostage crisis, which has also become intertwined with the trial.
Right, that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
So I guess the question for you is, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, like what stands out to you as the most crucial aspect of this deep dive?
Is it the legal arguments, the political maneuvering, the personal stories?
And what kind of questions does all of this raise in your mind?
Does it make you think differently about the relationship between political power, the media, and the justice?
Because those are all really important things to consider.
Absolutely.
And one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
As we watch all of this unfold, it's important to remember that behind all the legal arguments and the political drama, there are real people whose lives are being profoundly impacted.
That's a good point.
You've got the prime minister himself facing these serious charges.
Right?
You've got his family who are also caught up in this whole thing.
And you can't forget about the families of the hostages who are just desperate for their loved ones to come home.
And it's those human stories that I think are ultimately going to shape how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah. In the end, it's about people.
So keep that in mind as you continue to follow this story, because it's far from over.
Agreed.
And your informed perspective, as always, is incredibly valuable.
Absolutely.
We're going much deeper into the ongoing corruption trial of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Exactly. We're aiming to really unpack the actual evidence, the arguments flying back and forth in court.
We've gathered quite a bit, news reports, legal summaries, even some direct accounts from the trial itself. Our goal is just to lay out what the sources say is happening.
Right. Focusing on the three main cases, 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000. Bribery, fraud, breach of trust. Those are the core acts.
And just to be super clear, we're not here to get into the politics or, pick sides.
No, not at all. It's about understanding the trial mechanics, the evidence presented, the defense strategies, all based on the materials we've looked at.
Okay, let's dive in then. Case 1000, this is the one often called the gifts affair.
The basic charge is that Netanyahu and his wife Sarah received pretty lavish gifts over maybe 20 years. We're talking cigars, champagne.
Yeah.
The prosecution puts a value around $195,000 on, and some jewelry too, about $3,100 worth.
Gifts from wealthy businessmen, Arnon Milchan and James Packer.
Correct. Now, Netanyahu's defense hinges on the idea of friendship. They argue these weren't bribes, but gifts exchanged between genuine friends.
And they stress this friendship goes way back, right? Like started before he became prime minister again in 2009.
Yes, exactly. Back to around 2000, even when he was out of office, when his party, Likud, only held 12 Knesset seats. The argument is, if it was friendship then, why did it suddenly become bribery when he regained power?
Makes sense as a defense strategy.
Yeah.
Did he give specific examples in his testimony?
He did. He talked about the cigars, saying Milchan knew he liked them and would, occasionally give him a box. He definitely disputes the sheer quantity the prosecution alleges.
Okay.
He also made this point, sort of comparing values. He suggested that if you tallied up all the times Milchan maybe paid for family meals or hotels or flights over the years,
Right.
that total value might actually be more than what the prosecution claims the cigars and champagne were worth, kind of putting the gifts in a broader context of hospitality between friends.
And did he mention Milchan's own testimony?
Absolutely. He highlighted that Milchan himself apparently testified in court that the gifts were voluntary, given out of friendship, not because Netanyahu held a powerful position or demanded them.
So, friend to friend, not politician to businessman seeking favor.
That's the defense narrative. But the prosecution, of course, sees it very differently. They argue there was a quid pro quo.
Okay, what specific examples do they point to?
They focus on three main incidents where they claim Netanyahu helped Milchan. First, back in 2013, Netanyahu allegedly pushed for tax exemptions for returning residents. Milchan could have benefited from that.
But didn't that fail? I thought the finance ministry opposed it.
You're right, it did. Our sources say the finance ministry blocked it, citing national interests, so the benefit wasn't actually delivered.
Which might make proving a direct exchange harder for the prosecution.
Potentially. It raises the question of whether the intent or the attempt is enough, even if unsuccessful.
Okay, what were the other two instances?
Second, the prosecution claims Netanyahu asked John Kerry, who was U.S. Secretary of State then, on 3 separate occasions between 2013 and 2014 to help Milchan get a U.S. visa renewed.
A U.S. visa, okay. And the third?
The third allegation involves the Ministry of Communications. In 2015, Netanyahu supposedly told the ministry's Director General, Shlomo Filber, to help Milchan with regulatory issues concerning a potential merger between Reshet and Keshet, 2 media companies Milchan had stakes in.
So tax help, visa help, and regulatory help. That's the prosecution's quid pro quo claim.
Pretty much. And they also lean heavily on the testimony of Hadass Klein.
Milchan's assistant, right?
Yeah.
The one who handled buying and delivering the gifts.
That's her. Her account of the logistics, the frequency, the nature of the gifts, that's likely a key piece for the prosecution.
Interesting. And didn't the judges themselves suggest a plea bargain at some point?
They did, yes. Reports indicate the judges suggested, even before Milchan testified, that proving bribery here might be difficult. They apparently encouraged both sides to consider a plea deal, citing the good of the country.
Wow, that does suggest some potential weakness in the bribery charge, or at least complexity.
It certainly highlights the uncertainty around this specific case.
Okay, let's shift gears. Case 2000, the media deal. What's the core issue here?
This one involves conversations between Netanyahu and Arnon Moses, the publisher of Yedioth Ahronoth, a major newspaper and a rival to Israel Hayom.
Israel Hayom being the free paper seen as pro-Netanyahu.
Exactly. The allegation is they discussed a deal. Netanyahu would take action, maybe through legislation, to hurt Israel Hayom financially.
And in return?
In return, Moses' paper, Yedioth Ahronoth, would give Netanyahu and his family more positive coverage.
And there are recordings of these conversations.
Yes, apparently there are recordings. That's a central piece of evidence here.
Now, the Attorney General, Mandelblit, decided on the charges. What were they specifically for this case?
Right, this is important. Netanyahu was indicted for fraud and breach of trust, not bribery. Moses, however, was indicted for attempted bribery.
So, the charge against Netanyahu isn't that he took a bribe, but that by even engaging in these discussions, he misused his office and violated public trust.
That seems to be the essence of it. Fraud and breach of trust.
And like Case 1000, were there plea bargain talks here too?
There were reports of negotiations, yes, but again, nothing materialized. So this case is also being fully contested in court.
Okay, that brings us to the third one. Case 4000, the Bizek Wallah affair. This one sounds complicated.
It is arguably the most complex. The accusation is that Netanyahu, in his role as Minister of Communications,
Which he held concurrently with being prime minister for a time.
correct, he allegedly made or promised regulatory decisions that were highly beneficial to Shaul Elovitch.
Elovitch being the controlling shareholder of BEST, the big telecom company.
Right. And these weren't minor favors, potentially huge financial benefits for Bizek. In exchange, the allegation goes, Elovitch would ensure that his news website, Wallah, gave positive coverage to Netanyahu and his family.
And the charges here are the most serious.
Yeah, for Netanyahu, it's fraud, breach of trust, and bribery. Elovitch is also charged with bribery. It's a direct allegation of trading regulatory power for favorable press.
Okay, let's break down Netanyahu's testimony on what did he say about the Wallah coverage part?
Well, first, he tried to downplay Wallah's. He reportedly called it marginal compared to, say, Channel 2 news. The implication being, why would he trade valuable regulatory concessions for coverage on a less important site?
Okay, trying to diminish the quo part of the quid pro quo?
Sort of. He also distanced himself from specific requests for coverage change. He claimed he wasn't really aware of how much his wife Sarah and son Yar were communicating with an associate, Zev Rubinstein, about Wallah.